Probably one of the success stories that I like to highlight in transitional living was the very first parenting teen we had in the TLP program 5 years ago. She was 17 years old, was in her last year in high school, and had a 3-year-old son. Parents had pretty much, absolved themselves of the situation. She was on her own and had gone friend to friend until all that wore out. Came into the program in the residential track. She finished high school, graduated. We went to her graduation. Went on and enrolled in Monroe Community College. Stayed the entire 18 months, was working part-time at MCC, affording her own child support, or her own child care costs, and still attending classes after the 18 months when she left the program. Last time I saw her was about 4 months ago. She's working for a local alarm system company and just really doing well. So that's one. It's so difficult for the parenting team, so it's so cool to see them succeed.
We had a young lady who was referred to us. She was in a foster home in Beacon, New York, and things weren't really working out well there. And so she chose to sign herself out of care. And her plan was to just get an apartment and get a job. It sounded like a good idea, but it was a little bit, it was more difficult than she expected. And she was referred to us by a guidance counselor in high school. She was a very smart girl, and even though she didn't have a place to stay, she kept on going to school. We brought her into our TLP program, and she lived here for about a year, and she applied to Howard University, and she got a full scholarship. Last year, her financial aid package didn't work out the way it should have, and housing wasn't included in her financial aid packet. And she called here and told me that she was coming back to Poughkeepsie. And my answer was, for what? She would be homeless. And so we were able to, with some wraparound funds, pay for her to stay in a studio, because it was only a 2-month period until she got the money she needed to go back into the dorm. So we were actually able to pay for her to stay in the studio. She calls here when she gets a good grade. She calls here when she gets a bad grade. And it's because she has nobody else. She has since aged out of our program. She's over 21. She's still a full-time college student at Howard University, and she's graduating in May of next year. And she calls me, I want to say once a month, just to check in and let me know how she's doing.
And I ran away from home. I lived at Booth House. I was rebellious, but even in the midst of all that, I always had those encouraging adults in my ear. I'll never forget my case manager there, where, he really encouraged me and he really pushed me. And I talked to him, I said, this is what I want to do. After I got to high school, I became a peer counselor at Booth House. And the more I did that, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. I always said, I want to go back to the Salvation Army, and I want to give back to my community. I want to give what was given to me. I want to give kids hope. So if I can give that to someone else's child that was given to me, it makes me feel like my civic duty to society is being fulfilled.
That young man in particular, if we had not been here for him, I think that his situation would have been such that he might have gone to jail, or he might have gotten himself hurt or killed on the streets. He was just so angry. And although we had conflicts, it was hard. When kids have behavioral issues, the first reaction is to react, to be reactive, and not think about how can we work with somebody? How can we not be like everybody else? And penalize them for what they're feeling and experiencing inside, and how can we work around that and help them grow. And so it was difficult for us, and we challenged each other. We challenged him and he challenged us, but we grew from that experience, and he did as well.
There is not a more resilient group of kids that you would ever want to work with than the homeless population. These kids have overcome so many obstacles just to survive the streets. And when you see them succeed, you wouldn't want to be doing anything else.
They have the biggest amount of positive energy, I think, in all groups of kids. I watch them, take things apart like an emotional or a mental Rubik's Cube. This population of kids, you learn from them every day. Every day there's a new way to look at something differently that you never thought you would look at it from that angle.
This house is full, even though it's busy, and my case managers, we got 6 or 7, 8 kids in the house. I come in and it's like, okay, there's quite a crew in here, and just connecting with them and sitting down and talking with them and watching them interact, and they just have such energy.
The reward is, it's not an immediate reward, and I share that with the rest of my coworkers who are all pretty relatively new to River Haven, that the successes that give you this fulfillment of feeling really good about what you do happen over a long period of time, that the path to independence is not an event, it's a process.
No parent wants their child to end up on the streets, but if they do, we want to make sure that there are programs and services there in every community so that young people don't have to leave their towns, and young people can end up in programs where they can get the help they need to either go back home or move on to independent, productive adulthood. We're the Empire State Coalition of Youth and Family Services, and we believe that every child deserves a safe, healthy, and productive future.